Right. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Thanks for having me come talk to you today.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. Um, Today's episode is sponsored by Blomberg Windows, who are radically custom, aggressively slim, extreme energy, and since 1957, Blomberg products are fabricated in Sacramento and sell direct to market with expert specifications, services, and support for your project. 60 years in Northern California, direct sales and support, architect owners since 2013. And the owner said, an awesome window company run by kind of an architect who cares about great architecture. I think he actually is an architect, but thank you very much. Is it Jeremy then? Is it Jeremy?
Jeremy, yeah, Jeremy.
Yes, Jeremy.
Drucker, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes. Um, so my guest today is Greg Mottola. Is it Mottola? It's Mottola, right?
Mottola,
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I know somewhat of the Italian names. Greg Mottola, FAIA, is a principal leading Bohlin Cywinski Jackson San Francisco studio. His human-centered design philosophy springs from a brief but powerful architecture, a belief that powerful architecture must elevate the user experience, lift the spirit, and foster community. His design work considers the project's particular context, its place, culture, and climate to create exceptional buildings that resonate. This approach furthers their award-winning practices' reputation for sensitivity to landscape and context, the nature of people and culture, and the innovative use of material in response to circumstance. He works at a variety of project scales and typologies, ranging from large institutional buildings, commercial, retail, and hospitality projects to extraordinary private residences. The through line for the range of work is an approach that carefully considers occupant experience, one that delights all the senses and contributes to resonating, emotionally powerful architecture, balanced by technical rigor and execution. That's really beautiful. It's really
a mouthful
beautiful
too, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So I met Greg in Scottsdale, Arizona, when we were with Lutron, correct?
That's
Lutron.
right. At Taliesin, that's correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
at
Taliesin West.
Taliesin. Yes, Taliesin West. And I had gone I had gone on two different trips in relatively a few weeks apart from each other. So I'm sorry that I didn't remember which trip we actually met on, because one was with Lutron and one was with Western Windows, and
Yes,
and this was the Lutron one
that's
that
correct.
we
Yes.
met. Yes,
Yeah,
because the Taliesin West experience was the dinner.
that's
Yes,
right.
and it was
That's
just
right.
the tour with Western Windows. So what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess it probably goes all the way back to when I was a kid. So it started, let's see, I was born in New York City in the late 1960s. My family moved us to the suburbs of northern New Jersey in the early 70s. So I kind of had this interesting experience of growing up in a bedroom community that saw a ton of development through the course of my childhood. So when we moved there as a kid, there was still a bunch of farmland all surrounding the kind of street that I grew up on. And then through the course of maybe the next 10 years, there was just tons of development, turning what was farmland into all this housing development. So as a kid, we would go play in these construction sites. So we would be crawling through, climbing in, probably doing dangerous things, exploring these homes being built. And, when you have these tract homes, they would be in various states of construction. So you'd see one, it was just an excavation. One, they had to put the basement in. One, they started framing, and you could sort of climb through and really start to see how these things began to take shape. And I was really fascinated by that process of seeing, from these piles of material like concrete blocks and, sticks of wood get turned into form. right? And
Oh,
it wasn't super conscious, but I think it really had an impact on me of sort of really seeing this connection between like material and how you can actually turn it into something. And that kind of fascination with construction, I think, started there. And then kind of on the flip side of that too, growing up, my family was all from New York City. My father, commuted into the city every day for his career. He was in banking, so none of my
mhm.
family had architecture in their background. But as a kid, he would take us into the city, me and my brother, and we would go see museums and go see different parts of the city. And that was kind of a really interesting contrast to like suburban New Jersey, where like it's just, sprawl, kind of
Yeah,
terrible,
yeah,
horrible sprawl.
yeah.
And
It's
then
kind of
this,
like ET, right? Like when they're in ET and they're running bikes.
absolutely, absolutely. So, it kind of contrasts that experience where, and in the 70s, like kids would just run wild, right? You
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
you weren't checking in with your mom or whatever. Like you just knew how to be home when it got dark. So you would just be out on your bike in these like developments. And then you would go to the city and you would kind of see this vibrant, alive place, right? They would take
Mhm.
us to museums. We would go see the Guggenheim. We would go see the Museum of Modern Art, a Museum of Natural History. We would go down to like the South Street Seaport Museum, and that experience of being in this kind of really lively urban place where it was really kind of just humming with activity, I think was something that really kind of excited me as a young kid. And then being really paying attention to this built environment. And New York in the 70s was a lot rougher than it is today. And I
Yeah.
remember kind of having this, almost like sense of excitement, but also slightly bit of fear because it was, like, I don't know if you ever spent any time in New York in the 70s, but like all the subway cars are just covered in graffiti. Like it was very different than it is today. Like today's so much more sanitized, right? So I think
Yeah,
that,
I mean, 1978. I mean, and people tell me this and they're like, "What?" Like, I don't understand why they allowed you to do that. And
yeah.
but we went with Girl Scouts. We went with the Girl Scouts. It was like 1978, and we went to New York City. We drove there in
Yeah.
a station wagon. I drove there in a station wagon. I think it took us 13 hours or something from Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
With Girl
Yeah.
Scouts. And there were maybe I think there were only four of us that managed to get all the money together and then we're allowed to go there.
Oh,
And
wow.
and then we went to go see we went to some of the different sites and then we went to go see uh Grease on Broadway.
Uh-huh.
And then we had to go see Grease in the theater also to
Uh,
see the movie.
yeah.
And then we went to Coney Island. Yeah.
Nice.
Like walking
Yeah.
around.
So it's
Yeah. So,
probably
yeah.
a pretty transformative experience for you too, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you have that
Like
Pittsburgh connection
Pittsburgh
as
is.
well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the
Yes.
museums, right? I mean, we would go to the Carnegie Mellon Museum. I mean, my mom did Buell Planetarium and
Yep.
um
Yeah.
Phipps Conservatory,
Yep.
all these kind of yeah. So yeah.
Yes. So this like interest in urban places and then kind of growing up really into suburban sprawl, like when I started thinking about going to school, going to college, I was really only interested in schools that were kind of in more urban places and kind of discovered Carnegie Mellon as a place that had an architecture program. I kind of wanted to just do a bachelor's of architecture, like a professional degree. So I didn't have to go extra years to grad school. So I was
Uh,
like really eager to start making buildings, like start actually building things. And so that 5-year degree that CMU offered was really appealing. And Pittsburgh was a really great city to kind of learn how to live in an urban place, having grown up just on the edges of New York. So
yeah.
I think all
Yeah.
those things really kind of shape my awareness for architecture and what it means to think about occupying these kinds of places.
Mhm. When did you go to school there?
So I was a freshman in 86, so graduated in
Okay.
91. So, Pittsburgh in the mid 80s was like a city in transition too. Like it was like kind of, the industrial stuff was really kind of winding down. And then there was like this kind of redevelopment starting to spring up too. So, it's kind of a fascinating time to be there. We sort of the end of
We
like
left in 81. We moved out to the West Coast in 81. My stepdad designed printing presses there for Publishers Equipment Corporation. It used to be Miller's Corporation, like on the north side, kind of like,
oh wow,
kind of see it. It was like behind Three Rivers, over there.
yeah.
Yeah. And also one of my friends, she was in the design program at Carnegie Mellon. So I came to visit her in, I think it was 85.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right around the time I was there. That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a beautiful school. And then the teacher said, like, oh, if you're an architecture major, you should go see, the Meyer house with the Venturi house, like right behind it, which was, was one of them torn down or not? Were they both torn down or?
The Meyer house I know is still there.
Okay.
There was a bunch of like restoration work done on it a few years ago. That's what I understand, but I don't know about the Venturi one, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
those
were kind of
over. Yeah. I walked over
like
and
pilgrimage
saw that.
sites there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I walked.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. The thing that I really liked about Carnegie Mellon's program was that it's embedded in a College of Fine Arts. It's not like such a hard focus on the technical side, although they definitely have plenty of that there. But I like that it had this balance of like very technical kind of topics in education mixed with the kind of fine arts appreciation. So I think that made it a good option for me as a student there.
And it's a beautiful campus.
It really is. Yeah. And one of the things that was great about it was when I came out of school, I started working for the same firm I'm at now. I mean, at the time it was called Bohlin, Cywinski, right? And then shortly after I joined, it changed to its current name. But I started working. One of my very first projects was a project on their campus. So having the opportunity to contribute to that campus. Back then, it was a rooftop addition to a historic building there, and then our firm has since gone on, and I've gotten the opportunity to work on 3 or 4 other projects on campus. So, getting to work at your alma mater is kind of a really, really cool thing, right?
Yeah. There's some people that have done stuff at Cal Poly Pomona, but I mean, Cal Poly Pomona was like, so, I mean, and then of course, right, they tore down the Antoine Predock building, which was designed and built like towards the latter part of we were laughing, saying, oh my gosh, it's like the best building on the campus, and then they tear it down. But there are some other buildings, like some of the people that went to school there or have done some of the buildings on there. But the pastor of our church one time in Santa Monica said, like, oh, you went to Cal Poly Pomona? He goes, I think that's the ugliest campus I've ever been to.
Oh no. Yeah.
I'm like, oh. Yeah. So what 3 classic buildings do you like and why?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you didn't limit it to one, because I think picking one is really hard. So thank you for making it 3. And even 3 is kind of hard, but and I gave this one.
You can say more. I don't like limit people to it. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to just like do it. Or people are like, oh, well, it used to be this, but now it's this. Now, yeah.
Well, I definitely have 3 that I think are really strong. I don't know if like they're the only 3 I would pick, but these are 3 that I think were impactful on me at different times in my life. First one, I would say Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth, Texas. So Louis Kahn finished in 1972. I got a chance to see it I think it was in 2000, during the AIA National Convention, which was in Dallas that year. So I went to take a tour of it then, and I would say that it's just such a kind of a sublime place to see. If you haven't seen it in person, it's really amazing. It's one of these buildings it's kind of a modular design where it's like a kit of parts, and everything is just so thoughtfully considered. It's this series of vaulted bays, right, connected together. And I think the thing that makes it really incredible is the quality of light that comes in through these kind of rooftop monitors and these really delicate reflectors that make the light the way it feels, right? I think I'm always drawn to buildings that kind of elicit some kind of emotional feeling, right? Some response.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was an excellent one. I also love how it's like got this really restrained material palette, right? Just it's like concrete, like travertine, like glass. And I think it's like lead is like the roofing material. It's like metal. It's like just lead. So it's like really elemental that way. So that one is I think a really excellent building. It's one of those ones too, like it's so much better when you see it in person, right? I think like you see a lot of photos of it and it's like, yeah, that looks nice. But like when you feel it, you feel the space, it's just so good. So that's one. Another one is the Therme baths in Val, Switzerland that Peter Zumthor designed in 1996. I got a chance to see it in person in 2009. We've been using that same stone on a handful of projects over the years, and we were basically brought to go to the quarry and see their fabrication capabilities and all that. And we stayed at that hotel that's part of the spa.
That was nice.
Yes, it was a nice experience. But the thing about the baths that are so incredible is it's like the way the spaces are kind of sequenced together. It's a series of these kind of chambers that kind of connect to one another, and it's all using that same stone, but cut in this very precise way, these kind of linear slabs of it. And the
What
way
stone is it?
it's this quartzite.
It's quartzite.
It's Val's quartzite. It's this lovely stone that's got this kind of interesting kind of whitish streaks or veining through it, but the base color of the stone is this kind of grayish greenish color. And it's really lovely. And when you cut it in different ways, it kind of gives you a different characteristic, whether you do it as a split face or it's sawn or it's like sandblasted. I mean, we've used it a bunch of different ways, and it's a stone that seems pretty unique. Like we've tried to find alternatives to it and have never found anything that feels quite as kind of rich as that particular stone feels. And that that building is one of these things where like the way he brings light in, typically through like the edges of these volumes, and the way you move from one to the next, and the way you kind of descend into it, and each of these spaces that have this sort of natural spring water happening in it in different temperatures. So there's a really hot pool, there's a really cold pool, there's a a very quiet space where the acoustics are really incredible, and just the whole thing kind of affects your whole all of your senses in a way that's, I think, really powerful. So that's a pretty great one. And if you haven't had a chance to see it in person, I would definitely recommend trying to go see it, because it's quite amazing. Yeah.
I know. Well, I had this whole, I mean, I turned 60 and I wanted to go to Europe for a month. And then because of things that have happened, I turned 60 at the end of October. So that kind of gives you an idea of like what was going on. So
yeah.
So anyway,
well, you owe yourself a trip.
Yes, I do owe myself a trip. But because, and I mean, it's kind of the last time I went there, I was 50. Okay. The time that I went before, I was 21, 22, when I studied abroad, in Denmark. And so because I spent like 11 months, 10 months there, I always feel like I can't go back for just like 10 days. I want to go back for a month. And so this was supposedly going to be my month thing, but right, there's the coming year, who knows?
Well, you have to do it maybe before you turn 61 then. How about that?
Yes, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And of course, I think I've said it to like some other people that have like said it. I said, when I just think of like Switzerland, and I mean, I was always there when it was like super cold. And so going through the Alps, either by train, or one time we actually drove from Denmark to Rome. But it always seemed like so cold, right? And so when I like see it, I immediately think that it's going to be cold. And a couple of people were like, no, it's not cold because it's spa and it's hot water, blah, 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 and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure that it's not cold, except that you're telling me that there's a cold bath there.
Well, but that's only one of the rooms has it. And I'll be honest with you, I only went in up to my like knees, and it was like, I can't do this. Like if a lot of people do these cold plunge, spa treatments now, and I don't know that I could do it. I think it just takes your breath away. But all the other pools are amazing. And there's one where you actually kind of start inside and then you swim outside and you're under the stars, which is quite lovely. Like it's a really wonderful experience. So
yeah,
definitely put it on your list of things to see.
Yeah, I mean, I do love to swim. I mean, it's like I love to swim. And, I don't know whether when you went to Carnegie Mellon, did you ever see the Dormont pool? Did you ever see the Dormont?
I don't think I did, actually.
Did you ever? Okay. My late ex-husband called it the biggest pool in the world, right? Because he didn't think that it was actually as big as it was, but it actually was a lake. And then they they put so many. And my grandmother swam in that pool like that, and then my stepdad and my mom they all, and then I went there as a kid, and that's like where you went for swimming lessons. So everybody that grows up in Dormont, there's not really that much to do down there, and Dormont's 1 square mile, and so this pool in the park takes up about a quarter of the square mile.
Wow.
So we would always get our pool passes, and we would go down to the pool. And so, but the older that you get, right, it's like, you're like, oh, I like warm water, so
Yes.
when I go to Arizona, it's like, it doesn't matter if it's at night and you're, it's like, because it was triple digit weather there, right, triple digit temperatures for like 6 months out of the year this past year. So, it's like every time I went in, and one of my friends who lives there was saying, oh, is the water warm? And I'm like, it's always warm. It's never cold. It's always warm when you go in. And there was somebody at the hotel. She was like, gosh, it's like we went to go into the pool because we thought it was going to be refreshing. And she goes, and it's like bath water. I'm like, yeah,
bath water. Yeah,
it's great. Yeah. It's great. You can swim as long as you like. It's like that. And you can swim in. So, right, when you're older, that's great.
Yeah, well, feels good on the joints, right?
Yeah. And so what was the third one?
So the third one is one that's maybe a little less well known, but it's this really amazing winery. It's called the Marchesi Antinori. It's in kind of Tuscany. It's in this town called Bargino. It's like in the Chianti region. It's sort of almost halfway between Florence and Siena. It's designed by Marco Casamonte, who's his firm Archea Associati, is an Italian firm, and it's a project that was completed in, I think, 2013. I got to see it a year ago, November, just literally about a year ago. My older daughter was doing her study abroad in Florence last fall semester, and so the rest of the family, we all decided to go and spend Thanksgiving week visiting her and seeing, because I'd been to Italy before, but I had never been to Florence. Yeah. So we said, let's go there. And then also wanted to see Siena because it's so close. So we planned that. And then once I kind of started to map out this trip, I also saw that this winery is like right between them. And I'm like, we have to go see this thing, because I had seen it in photographs published. And it's this really incredible complex. So it's a pretty large facility, but it's completely kind of buried in the hillside. such that you only see little bits of it sticking out. So it's kind of tucked into the hill, and it's a serious production winery facility, as well as it has this incredible visitor experience. So we are designing some wineries. So I also had some interest in kind of seeing
Research.
how exactly. I was like, if I could write this off, I will. But um, so it's tucked in the hill. It has this kind of really great visitor experience that starts with where you park your car. You kind of enter the hillside and you wind, this kind of buried driveway, and you enter this auto court, and there's this big oculus, just this big circular opening to the sky. So you sort of see like light coming down, and then you kind of ascend this kind of really interesting spiral staircase to where you get to the kind of entrance for, tours. And then you do this tour experience, and the whole thing, they have kind of a history of. Antinori is a really old winemaker, from the 1800s or even older, I think. And so they tell you a little about the history of the family and their wine business, and then the kind of how they are making wine now. So they kind of give you a full kind of account of the process, and it's the way, since it's built into this hillside, the winemaking is in a kind of a gravity fed process, which is like the preferred way to make wine. So you're not introducing more mechanical disturbance to the grapes. So it's supposed to be better. You're supposed to get better wine from doing it from a gravity fed process. So not only does it have this kind of great kind of way of how they produce the wine, but then the way they kind of thread through the visitor experience is really quite lovely. And you go into where like the barrel storage area is, and it's these kind of asymmetrical vaulted spaces, kind of like, it's like almost like a wave profile shape and section, and
Like
all
parabola or something.
yeah, but it's like a little
Okay.
asymmetrical. So it's really
Okay.
lovely. And the entire interior of this thing is all made from this kind of really restrained material palette. It's all like terracotta. So the vaults are lined with this terracotta. The floors, they have these grills made from terracotta. So it has this kind of really potent materiality as well. And just the detailing is just lovely. And it's a contemporary building, but it feels like in some ways it has kind of a more rich kind of feel to it that a lot of modern buildings just don't give you. So it's really, really lovely. It's another one, like if you're going to do a month in Europe for your to celebrate your 60th year on the planet, it would also be worth making a trip there if you're going to swing through Italy as part of it, because it's
Well,
quite
like we were not even half the program, but the Cal Poly Pomona and San Luis Obispo students, we're split between Copenhagen and Florence, and so Copenhagen, we actually had more travel time than the Italy. So we would go down there, and they lived in apartments, so we could just stay there in the apartment. And then, like at Christmas time, they were, or during the winter holiday, they were traveling, and so then we could just stay at their apartment if we were down there. So I was able, I was able. I really like. I mean, Florence. People, I think they always go to Rome, but my favorite is Florence. I mean, Rome is just still, it's so large, and, it's popular. The cars are always, racing around and everything. And Florence is more, it's more walkable, and it's kind of
definitely
more,
very walkable.
yeah.
In some ways, though, I think my daughter, who spent the semester there, she said it sort of felt like you were in a museum the whole time. Which, I think when you're trying to live there every day and everything is sort of tourist focused, I think she got a little weary of it, actually. But she's had an incredible experience, so I'm glad she was able to do that.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. Yeah, when I went for my 50th, my daughter was over there she was over in Spain for a semester. So we were able to go there, and then we went up to Copenhagen, and also over to Appeltoft, which is where my Danish mother had moved later on. And Yeah, so then we got the Danish, experience. I'm still hearing about how cold it was from my daughter. She was just
Yeah.
complaining about it the other day at Thanksgiving.
Well,
She was
when you're
saying to her boyfriend, complaining about how
yeah,
cold it
well,
was.
when you live in Southern California, it's easy to be soft when it comes to weather, right? It's like,
Right?
yeah,
It's yeah, definitely not the weather we grew up with, but yeah,
yeah,
it's like one of my kids always is talking about how he wants to move to Detroit. And I said, you know what, I want to send you to Detroit in the middle of winter. Just go there. Just go there for like 1 week. Let's see if you can make it there for 1 week in Detroit. It's,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm glad when I saw that, you sent me the three names and I saw that and I'm like, I hope he pronounces that for me because I am going to butcher that. It's, so thank you for doing
Yeah,
that.
no, it's a good thought exercise.
Oh,
When you try to narrow it down to three, it's really hard, but it's a great prompt. So appreciate that.
okay. So what do you like about being an architect?
Yeah. I think the thing that is true about architects is you tend to have to be an optimist by nature because you're sort of needing to project a future that doesn't exist now with the work we do, right? So by nature, we are trying to help our clients think about a future that they can't conceive of themselves. And that's really kind of I think a powerful aspect of what we do, right?
Mm.
I like that it's all about complex problem solving, right? We're always solving these multiple variable problems. And when they try to like teach design thinking in business school, I don't think they really get what we do because it's much more nuanced than that. But it is like you're solving puzzles, right? You're solving for all these things at one time. You can't do it in a linear fashion if you're gonna
Mhm.
come up with something that's really good. So I like those two aspects of it. I like that, when we're doing our very best work, you're trying to solve these really complex things in as simple, elegant way as possible, right? And when you do it really well, it looks really effortless, and it's almost like, well, of course, this is like the inevitable answer to a design prompt. But you and I, we know that takes an incredible amount of hard work, iteration, team. This is not an individual. Well, for you, it is. You're an individual
Yeah,
practitioner,
I
but
mean, I'm
if
like, right, but it's like a structural engineer and then the Title
yeah,
24
it's a
people. And then if I have anybody that I am gonna have it drafted in CAD or whatever, that's
yeah,
fine, or ArchiCAD or AutoCAD, whatever, when Revit, I mean, I have
yeah.
like
I
three
mean,
different consultants do that. Yeah.
it's a team sport, right? So I
Yeah.
like that too, that it relies on the talents of many to do the work, right?
And the
That's
client.
very satisfying. Well,
Yeah.
and yeah, and the client brings the other thing that I think is really cool about what we do in our profession, which is it's project based. So it's sort of it's never the same, right? You're always doing something
Mhm.
different, right? And I like that it's not just repetitive, right? So
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
deliberately work on a bunch of different project types. Like we don't specialize we don't just do healthcare. Like we're not that kind of firm. Like we like to do the different things, and I think that keeps us always kind of nimble and curious and wanting to try to find the right answers to these uh, problems that we're being asked to help solve. And
Uh-huh.
best idea wins no matter who's bringing it forward. Like we really believe in that. So the fact that it's different, the fact that like on any given week I'm involved in probably a dozen different projects at different stages with the folks here in my studio, and I love that. Like I love all of that.
Mhm.
And I think that's what makes this profession rewarding, even though it's also really hard, as you know.
Brings up, and I mean, I know that like, I when I interviewed Tom Kunde, it was kind of the same thing. And then I went to see the office up there, but they work on like so many different projects. But I mean, they started out in residential, but I mean, even with these kind of like building types, I mean, like who kind of comes, right? If you're not kind of a specialist in that building type? Like, who is bringing you kind of into the thing? Is it because somebody that was part of that corporation or board is like said, I really like this person's work, or did, were they in our, were you the architect on the residential project or something? Or like, how would they look
How
to
do they find
somebody
us?
that isn't a specialist? Yeah, because
Yeah.
so many people, right? People ask me like, oh, can you design do you have enough experience to design my like 500 square foot addition? And I'm like, what? I've been working for architects since 1983, It's like,
Yeah.
why would I not
Yeah.
have enough experience for that? So like, how do you have your big experience, or like, how do you kind of, reassure a client that you can do the project when you haven't done that project type before?
That's always the challenging question, because I think it comes down to finding like-minded clients, maybe more than anything. Because if a lot of clients do just, they want the comfort of like, oh, I want somebody who's already done this a dozen times, and maybe we've done it 3 times, right? Which
Mhm.
sometimes that's not enough for a particular client. For clients that are interested in having some fresh eyes looking at something, but still backing it up with like a lot of real grounded experience in the
Mhm.
technical aspects of a project. I think we tend to do really well with those kinds of clients that are looking for something a little different, where it's not just a cookie cutter, like crank it out, and it does require kind of a different sort of approach with our kind of marketing efforts, where we're trying to get
Mhm.
our work out there in all these different typologies, right? It's like university buildings and corporate headquarters and retail and custom residential, very high-end custom residential. It does require kind of maintaining some amount of that work in each of the categories, because if you don't keep at it, like it's harder to make the case that you're still capable of doing it. As much as we like to say, like it's all design, right? You're designing for a
Mhm.
human condition or human
Yeah.
issues, right? So
Yeah.
regardless of whether it's an office or a house or a store, right? It's all really the same.
Mhm.
Um, at least that's how we look at it. And when you find the right clients that can see past gosh, they only did this 2 other times. Is that okay? And so we have to kind of talk about process when we kind of
Mhm.
pitch work to potential clients, like how we think and how we problem solve. The other thing about our work too, Michelle, is like we aren't known for just doing kind of one style or one flavor of design. Like our work is really varied. Like if you look
Yeah,
across our
yeah, diverse.
portfolio,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's not
Yeah.
like a signature, like you mentioned the Richard Meyer house in Pittsburgh. And like his work is like you know it when you see it. It's like, oh, that's the Richard Meyer house. Or even like Tom Kundig's work it's wonderful, but it's kind of like it has a look to it. And
Yeah.
I think our work is very different because it's always really thinking about and responding to the particular circumstances of a
Mhm.
particular project. And we'd rather have the design emerge from really thinking about that condition rather than like bringing the baggage from maybe our past experience to it. And
Uh,
I think as a result of that, it also keeps the work kind of fresh and allows us to kind of come at it with really open eyes and kind of fresh energy. And that
mm,
also is like what I think I really like about the profession, and I think our practice in particular.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so why did you apply for fellowship, and what topic did you choose? I mean, I think I already
Uh,
know which topic you chose, but
well, so I became a fellow in 2015. This was something that our founding partner Peter Bohlin, like he was kind of a mentor to me from when I was a young architect in the practice. He kind of encouraged me to think about doing it. He thought it would be a good thing for me to kind of clarify my own set of kind of beliefs. And also thought he's like, it'd be good for the firm to have more of our leaders have be fellows in the AIA. So those reasons really was why I decided to try to do it. I went under Object One, which is design.
yeah,
Um,
good.
and what I thought was really kind of rewarding about the process was that it kind of really forces you to kind of take stock of everything that you've done and try to understand like what is the meaning of all this work that you've done? Like what are the beliefs that are there when you look back at it? And what are the things that you could say it's like, yeah, these things are why I do what I do. And you start to really understand your beliefs. So I thought it was really helpful, like being at that point in my career to look back a little bit and sort of think about, how did I get to where I am today? And it sort of, I think, it clarifies you thinking about your sense of purpose going forward. So I thought that was a really interesting process, and it was certainly an honor to receive that fellowship. And I've stayed involved with that process a bit. So I'm on the San Francisco AIA chapter's fellowship committee, which is basically a group of maybe a dozen fellows in the practice area in the chapter who are interested in trying to encourage people to consider applying for fellowship. So we'll give people feedback on their submissions. We'll actually do outreach to people that we think like, hey, these people are excellent. And, we have so much talent in this chapter. So reaching out to folks who may not have even thought about it and say, hey, have you ever considered doing this? We think you should. You have a great story to tell. You could be a really model example for the profession, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing that since probably 2017 or 18, a couple of years after I got it. I wanted to kind of try to help encourage others to do it because I think it's a great way to reinforce all the great talent that is around us through the chapter here.
Good. Yeah, I think that we have like a dozen people on our committee for fellowship. I think it's like a couple people.
Are you which chapter are you?
San Diego.
You're San Diego. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how big that is as far as number of architects.
Well, the number of architects is big. That's why I'm kind of surprised that I think we're like the second or third biggest chapter in the state or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably are like, it's probably LA and then San Francisco and then San Diego, probably, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna apply, and I'm not gonna apply afterwards to be on the committee. But that's because at 60, I said I wasn't gonna volunteer for anything anymore. I'm just gonna focus on my own practice instead of other people's. I mean, I'll still do the podcast, but yeah. So that's interesting. That's interesting because we don't have that many people applying. So how many people do you have?
We tend to have somewhere. We'll tend to have somewhere between maybe 8 and 14 people apply each year. This past year, I think we had maybe 10 people get elevated. It was actually a good year for San Francisco to get some fellowship conferred. So it obviously it varies from year to year, but we've had a few really good years where we're able to get these folks some recognition for their great careers.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah. So what would you like to say about the future of architecture?
Yes. Well, I think we're living through a very interesting time, right? In society in general. I think our profession probably needs to exert more leadership around the built environment. Like so much of what gets built is not great. And so much of it gets built without much input from our architects. I think that needs to change. I think we play an incredibly important role in helping address some of the big challenges that we all face around climate change and carbon reduction and making buildings more resilient to withstand all the changing nature of our world. I'm sure you have, maybe you have these conversations too, but like a lot of our clients now are, especially our residential clients, we tend to do these houses in these remote places where they're they're like struggling to get insurance for their projects. And it's like just like those kinds of things where it starts to really hit home how the nature of our world is changing so fast, and we need to be part of the answer rather than sitting back and letting others figure it out.
Well, yeah. And I mean, that's interesting you say it, because I did a project with a client and we got the permit for it, but really it was just like a prefab metal building. But he decided to order, it was small. He's got like 24 acres, right? It's a small building, but he thought like, oh, if I can just get a couple hundred square feet more for this much money. And so he orders this building, and of course it was over the threshold for fire sprinklers. And then no fire sprinkler company would go out there to do it. We couldn't get anybody. And so it's just out there because they already had a burn area go through there. So all these people that have had, the projects, their houses have burned down, and then they can't rebuild because of like all of these different reasons. And then this one that, and they won't say, oh no, we won't do fire sprinklers out there. They'll just say, oh, we don't do work there. And it's like no fire sprinkler company would do work there. And so that was when I said to my client, I'm like, I think they don't want to insure anything out here. And that's the reason why they're not going to do that. So, it just doesn't have, he's going to own it forever. And so he's like, well, then we just won't get final on it, because they couldn't get anybody, to do it. So,
yeah. It's a real problem. It's a real problem.
He's got the tank there and stuff. So
yeah. Well, it pretty much every project we do, regardless of scale these days on the residential side, everyone's putting those systems in.
Yeah.
Seems like you have to, but we're also seeing, I'm sure you're seeing this too, where it's, you're no longer able to put combustible materials on the exterior and all those kinds of requirements that weren't around just a few years ago. So it's really changing fast. I think the other thing that related to the future of architecture that I don't know how it's going to play out is you're starting to see like artificial intelligence start to make its way into everything, right? Not just our field, but just everything, right? And I don't know where that's going to go. It seems like it has potential to be a powerful tool, right? It might automate some things that we'd rather not have to spend our time doing. Like we're starting to see AI start to be able to maybe help us with our specifications, like some of the technical, like the kind of stuff that's not super fun to do. We'll see if that really works out. There's also some, just starting to see some of the abilities of it to help with early design visualizations, right? So that's interesting, and maybe also a little scary because like it can be very convincing, and at the same time, you're not sure if it's real or not, right?
Yeah.
So I do think I think we're at this really interesting time for our profession and just in general, right? I think the next 4 years are going to be really nerve-wracking, right, at the federal level to see what's going to happen after the election, what kinds of protections will still be around for the environment and things like that. It's going to be really interesting for us. So we're all sort of bracing for what's going to be.
Yeah. And it's like we're in California, so people are kind of like, well, luckily we have a lot of these things that we just believe as a state, that we should be doing, to kind of end because, we're the 5th biggest world economy. And it's like, well, obviously it's not hurting us, but it's like maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll kind of see what goes on.
That's really true. I think we have studios in other parts of the country though. So we've got 3 of them in Pennsylvania, which I think they're maybe more anxious about what might change for them. And we have one up in Seattle as well. So, I think, I don't, what do you see as some of our future, for our profession? What do you think is going to play out?
For our profession?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting because I haven't been going into the schools lately. I used to have a friend that she was teaching, and then she'd ask me if I wanted to do crits or whatever. And then, I would go in and kind of do crits. And there were a lot of things that people were kind of, with the internet. And I mean, I've talked about this before, kind of that, people will Google stuff on the internet and then they're like, oh, okay, here it is, right? It's like, I have, it's like, I want to do this. And I think probably one of the, I've given this example before, but it's because I've said, that this person was supposed to, it was a student, and they were supposed to design like a small structure for a writer. And this site, they kind of use this site, like different sections of the site they use for like different things. Like one of them is a house, and one of them is this, and and then there's supposed to be this writer studio. Okay, so he designed this writer studio, and he picked this part of the site that kind of had this big hill. And then, and so this writer, she was, she liked quiet. And so what he did is he like stuck her into the hill with no windows or anything. And so she was kind of like saying, like, why would you do that? And he was like, well, she doesn't like to be around people. I'm like, well, she's in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's nothing around. Like, I mean, it's like what they said, you kind of. So I think that a lot of times, like, people, they don't go out and experience things. They're like still like just going through the internet, like looking at stuff with kind of like, oh, that looks cool. But as far as the experiential aspect of it, and then also kind of programming, it's like, they don't teach programming in school. It seems like your firm does a lot of programming because you're kind of talking about like the different area. And so I know when I helped to write the architecture exam for the state, they weren't including program because they said, oh, that's part of the ARE, so we don't include anything about programming, we're not going to do that. And I said, well, yeah, I said, is there even programming in it? Do people even know what programming is anymore? It's kind of like they just come up. And so, I think one of the great things about being an architect is that, that really, and what our training is that we're starting, we start with this concept, not concept of a plan concept. Like, I don't want that to be ruining our ideas of concept, but just that we have like all of these kind of ideas in our head about different qualities of space, or like, how does a space function? And I think with a lot of this stuff, like for people just saying, oh, I want a building that looks like that,
Right.
But okay, that building that's not the type of building that, right? The programming is different from that. And then, so
not appropriate for you.
Yeah, it's not appropriate. And so like, I think kind of probably the biggest thing is maybe, let's just say like hospital, like a hospital. I mean, I don't design hospitals, but I've been in enough hospitals now where it's like, really, a hospital is not, it shouldn't be about like all of this, like just like meandering path, like great architecture. It should really be that you get to the hospital and you need to know where you're going. It's like you're disoriented because something tragic typically has happened. I mean, why else would you be at the hospital? And so really it's like about wayfinding. It's about, where am I going to park? Where am I going to find people? But typically you go into these hospitals and it's like, the worst thing in the world, where you've got like some winding that isn't directional, and so people are losing, you feel like you're in Orange County, right? Like Orange County, you get off the freeway and you're like looking, but where's a gas station? And everything is like, all of the gas station things are only 2 feet high, right? They're all monument signs that are 2 feet high. You can't find the gas station. And then you're like driving in a big circle. And then you're back on the freeway again. And where was the gas station? Where's the gas station? Where am I going? So I guess that kind of like seems to me that we have to kind of get down to really like what the function is of architecture. And how we can use that, right? Because you can't really, I mean, maybe you can do that in AI. I don't know, maybe you can, but really it's like what, AI will spit back out what you feed in. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that I talked with about Namita, right? It really, like, the best, like, an architect can find way better solutions for stuff with their input into AI than, a regular Joe or whatever, just
Right.
like feeding stuff in or whatever, because we know what prompts and experiential quality or spatial qualities we want from a space, so we're able to get things out. So
Mhm.
hopefully we're not going to be run out of town or something, right? Hopefully we're
No,
still
that's
going to
right.
be, yeah, but we really kind of have to sell that to people, that, the way that we are going to be able to, to sell ourselves on this is that, okay, we're going to be able to come up with these never before seen ideas, and like, let's see how you use the space and how to, like, the same, kind of the same way, instead of saying, it's like, oh, I want that, or I want this, I want that, just because it's like, okay, well, how do you use your space? Like, even like a kitchen, like, how do you
Mhm.
use the kitchen? It's like, do you need, how much space do you need for this? It's like, do you need extra accommodation because you're using a wheelchair? Are you
Right.
going to have, or you might use a wheelchair in the future? How do we want to make this so that we can accommodate those needs and
Yep.
like
Yeah.
that? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So that was my long thing about the future. But
Well,
thanks for asking.
no, I mean, we have to stay relevant, and
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
to, we can't ignore some of these trends, right? I think like that's like not what's going to help us. I think we need to really embrace this stuff and figure out how to use it before it does take away the parts of our job that maybe are the most interesting part, right?
Uh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I know. And I think, everybody's like, oh, I just wanted to be an architect or I'm going to do this. And it's like, well, yeah, and then my thing is like, well, yeah, everybody can be an architect unless there's a client. Like, that's what
right.
we can all be architects, but then you have to add clients, building code, like everything else, the realities of the situation, the coordination, the problem solving of something that,
Yeah, and
it's
it's
like,
it's hard for people to really understand what we do. Like that seems to be
mhm,
universally true.
yeah,
Um, and I'm sure you see some of your clients come to you with, here's my Pinterest board. If I just can have one of each of the things on my Pinterest board, then I think I have everything I want.
yeah. And then you're like, well, what? I always limit people, like, you can't give me more than 10 images. And they're like, what? And I said, and you have to tell me what you like in each image,
Right.
because they'll, I mean, one person, they must have had like 100 or something. In fact, I didn't actually go forward. Like, I did schematic design and design development. And then they took it, then they thought that their structural engineer could just do the rest of the set. And I was like, whatever, and they 4 years later, they still don't have a building permit, but it's like, so, and they should have had one a couple of years ago at least. But but yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, you just to explain that she's, oh, well, I liked like that one little thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you're gonna have to like write down that is the one thing, you like this detail, the trim around the door, because I'm like, what, this is totally different than the other one, oh, but I only wanted that. I'm like, okay, well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll do our book list. We got the end of the
Oh,
year book list. Yeah, sorry. Do you have
yes.
enough time? Do you have enough
Yeah.
time?
Yes. No, I
Okay.
have plenty of time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the book list, it's everybody that I've interviewed in the last year, like, plus a bunch more. And so I realized I did not have Tom Kundig's book on the last year's, because I actually just interviewed him in January. And so I did purchase at the Peter Miller
Yeah.
bookstore. I
That's a good one.
purchased, yeah, the working title one. And this definitely went in my suitcase. I did not carry it on the plane because it's a wrist breaker.
Yeah. It's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then and it's called Working Title. And then he also has another one that's coming out, but it's not coming out until fall of next year, I think. And we don't have all of the things. And then what I tell people to always do is try to get the signature, right?
Yeah.
Try to have them sign
Yep.
the book, because actually one of my friends, I actually got a book for them, and the book was only $50, but now it's worth 3,000 supposedly. But because it's signed and there's a picture of the architect actually signing the book, and and so I included that in. So it's at the Monterey Design Conference,
Oh, nice. Yeah, good.
like probably 2019, I think it was. Yeah. And and then we have Patrick Kai's building dichotomy
Mhm.
that we have, and then there's some previews for next, which is like you guys have a book coming out.
We do. We have a book that's just in the works now. It's scheduled to come out the end of 2025, but maybe more likely very early in 2026. And it'll be highlighting some of our more recent residential projects. So our last book that did come out was 2020 was a book entitled Gathering, and it was covering a bunch of our like public buildings or larger scale projects. And so this is because we haven't done a house book in a while. We have a bunch of completed work, some of which hasn't been seen anywhere yet, some of which has gotten some exposure. But we're just underway in getting that designed and written, and we're really excited about it. It should be out really kind of next Christmas is when I think people start to be able to place orders for it. We don't have a title for it yet. So it's, the working title is, BCJ Houses or whatever. Like it's like that dumb right now, but it'll have a great range of work in it. And it'll represent the work of a number of my partners and myself that doing custom residences all over the country and up into like Canada, and so looking forward to that.
That sounds really great.
Yeah.
And so another one that I had was and then it's also kind of a preview of this coming year. It's the 9 Ways to Make Houses for People.
It's
To Make
David Baker,
Housing
right?
for People by David Baker.
Yeah,
Yes,
have that book.
I
Yep.
have to. Yes, and he signed that one also. In this one there, and
Nice.
he draws. Yeah, he draws a little picture in there. This is what I was kind of laughing about. This book here is what happens when you go to the bookstore at the end of the Monterey Design Conference and your publisher doesn't want to take the books home.
So they're priced to move.
I think I got this one for free.
Wow,
He
nice.
gave me a couple of them. Yeah. So if you hang out after the Monterey Design Conference, who's the publisher again?
ORO Editions. Yeah.
Yeah. ORO Editions. So, yeah. And so the other one is Architecture, a Place for Women. And there's actually there's articles by different women, but this one's by Anne Griswold Ting, who worked for Louis Kahn.
Nice. Yeah, great.
Yeah. And the other one that I talked about, do you David Gebhardt's Sky to Los Angeles? Do you have that book?
I don't have it. No. Sounds like I should get it. Looks the way yours is. Yours has a lot of tabbed pages. Yeah.
This one wasn't it. This one was my late ex-husband's. But yeah. And then also the person, we worked for Mark Appleton, and he has a publishing agency. And so they're updating the book. I don't know whether they already updated it or not, but I know they were working on updating this. And there's some of it is San Francisco and San Diego. But
cool.
yeah, they also have it.
Well,
But yeah, it's a great. And I mean, of course, this is like this is when we went to school. So of course it's ancient. Yeah.
has there been an updated version done, you know?
I thought Mark said in the interview, I thought that he said that they had updated it. So I'm not sure, but I'll put that one in the thing. And then there's also the Schindler book by David Gebhardt. Which this one,
excellent.
so there's a lot of those. So we'll put that in there. And I know Tim and then Tim Andreas that I interviewed this past year, he used to work at Koenig Eisenberg, and then he had his own firm, and then he was at Polar for several years. And so we'll have a Koenig Eisenberg book. And then there's this one by Jeannie Gang, which I met her a couple of years ago, and she said that she wanted to do a podcast. The only thing is it's like she said, oh yeah, don't use this email, use another one. So I'm going to have to call up the office and find out, because she said that she wanted to do that one. And then did you ever meet Marvin Rand in person?
No, I have not.
Okay. So one of the things is in the 90s, Marvin Rand, he was still photographing people's work. In fact, he photographed Angie and Larry's house in Venice, and he would he'd photograph other projects. And kind of the funny thing is that there was a picture, I don't know whether it's in this book or not, but anyway, she Angie was saying that she told them, there's also some Craig Elwood projects in here. I don't know whether the Hunt residence is in, because I just went there. It's open. I don't know whether they might keep it open until December 15th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you get a chance to go down there, it's in Malibu, and it's
love
great.
to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love to see that.
Yeah. It's really, and the scale is just so great because it's just so much smaller than everything else around.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is even right. I worked on that Buffin Hensman house that was on PCH. That was, they did that in the 60s or 70s. And then even that is really big. The scale's really big, and for that house. And this house is just like petite and just so, nice. And Peter Blake is a gallery owner, which he does these like once a year. He'll go to, a famous case study house, and they stage it. And then he just he just pays for this and there are no like postcards or business cards or anything for his gallery. He has a gallery in Laguna Beach.
Oh, wow.
And and he just pays to use the space for like 1 month or whatever. And so they're using the space, they paid for rent for the people who live somewhere else. They're actually an architect, and her husband helped fix up the house, renovate the house. It's in there now. And or the people who live there now. But it's just really great. But so anyway, Marvin Rand, Angie was in the house, and so she had Calder, their son, with them, and she said oh, Marvin, do you think that you can get a picture of Calder and I? And he said, Angie, I don't like people in my photographs. I only want models. I only have models in my photograph. And she's like, do you think you could just take a photograph of this? and that's the photograph that is kind of the most published of all of the photographs of the house, is them being on the second floor and looking down, and she's with Calder, so even though Marvin didn't want to do it. And then the other story with Marvin is that we saw him on they used to have these house tours in LA, and they would have and we were outside of the Irving Gill apartments that are right there in Santa Monica, close to the water. And we were standing there, you could go in and like, into the courtyard and see one of the things, but we didn't, we had just gone out there, but we came back out and there was this little old man on a Schwinn bicycle, black pants, white t-shirt, and his like black glasses, and he was there. And my late ex-husband, Steve, knew who it was. He knew who it was, but I didn't know who it was. And our friend that was there also didn't know, but he was, we were, I think we were all working for Marcus. I worked there for several months, but just to fill in for a lot of work that they were doing. But one of them was kind of doing this house that was in the style, or doing this house that's kind of in the style of Irving Gill. And so Marvin Rand said, he kind of like went on, we were just like, oh, and he was just like telling us about Irving Gill. I mean, obviously he was not around when Irving Gill was practicing, but he said, oh, do you know how Irving Gill constructed these arches? And of course, our friend that was like the project architect on it, he goes, oh, well, how did he do that? And he said, with a compass. It was like, I know that he did a compass because I thought you were talking about like, oh, he actually built it, not constructed it.
Drew it. Yeah.
Yes. So that was our Marvin. That's our Marvin Rand story. Yeah. Yeah. So, it's like all these people. Yeah. And one of the other things, I mean, you're in a practice, right? One of the people who I actually posted they're not an architect, but they write books, and I posted one of them for the book list last year, but I kind of had said something about this Craig Elwood house, and I said, oh yeah, Jerry Lomax was there, and it's like Steve worked for Lomax Rock, and then this person kind of went, right, because they're not an architect, and they were like, well, it's like too bad that all these people that like worked at Elwood's office, are now like claiming that they did all this stuff, and I said, well, it's a collaboration. I mean, everybody's working in the office, and I said, I mean, we used to be, architects of of our time, right? We would get, it's like the principal would give or the firm owner would give us like a pencil sketch or whatever and just say, here, do it. Like, here's the site. Figure it out. Right. And I said, so, I mean, I do believe that there were probably, and then they came back, like looked at what you did and redlined it. And then you drew it, again or whatever. Or, no, yep. I don't like it. I kind of wanted that. I said, but so, yeah, I said, I mean, it was. And I said, but of course, it's like we never said, like, oh, that was my design, right? Because we were working for the architect, no, it's the architecture firm's design, or it's, so-and-so's design. I mean, that's kind of the way it was. And I said, it's like, I don't think that these people are all of a sudden taking responsibility or saying that they designed. I mean, they did design it, it's
well,
like
they certainly contributed to the design of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get right. It's like, we can't say that we, that any of us like design, right? I mean,
well, it's a team sport, yes, so there's many people go into making these things happen.
Yeah. And so there's also another book out by Vishal Chakrabarty has another book coming out. It's already out, I guess. The Washington Post actually already. And because maybe some of these kids that we have now have never heard of these books before. Maybe does he have a website or something on the internet? Frank Ching, does he have a website on the internet?
I don't know. That's a great question. We still have a version of that book in the office, and maybe an older edition, but yes, we definitely have that one.
Yes. And so there's the Francis D.K. Ching. This one's a visual dictionary of architecture, but there's just, this one is just, I just think it's great because it just goes into so much of the structure and how things are put together. I mean, that really can just explain things. It's like so often I like hear from people like, oh, how do I do that? Or where's a detail for that? And
Well, a lot of those drawings look like what's in graphic standards, which I don't even know. Do they still publish in graphic standards? I don't know if they are.
I don't know if they, I mean, I have a book. When I got into architecture school, the person that I was working for in 1983, they bought, they all bought me a copy before I went. So, I mean, that was great because all my roommates were like, they were hot to trot on the to borrow that graphic standards. And I mean, of course, a lot of people were like, "Oh, why would you need graphic standards in college, right?" And I'm like, "Why?" It's like, and then there's the architectural graphic, and the architectural graphics is kind of like the smaller version, right? That kind of, that also teaches you how to do perspective, which,
yeah,
and then also kind of about, and then the architecture form, space, and order. Kind of does that. So I just thought that I'd kind of include that one because maybe some people have never heard of that before, right? Or, I mean, you can draw, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really draw much on the computer, but I draw a lot with a pencil. I sketch a lot and I do a lot of marking up and all that. But I think it's an essential skill, right? To like the way your brain connects to your hand to a pencil to the paper is so different from like inputs on a computer. Really, it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that too, but I don't even use the computer, so that's why people are kind of like laughing about it, like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" You know what I was talking about anyway. But and then the other thing is just kind of like these little things that you can get from, that aren't very big that I've like kind of collected over the year. Like this one was for the Hill House. Which, right? I mean, I went to see this in 1987. And, you're looking at this and you're like, oh, nothing is ever going to happen to this, right? It's going to be fine. And then it just started decaying and decomposing. And now they've got that big shell over the thing. And I've got photographs of it without anything on it. And we have this book right here that just have these.
Yeah.
And then kind of just even like these little, like the one for Vitrisk. Have you ever been to Vitrisk?
No, I have not.
In Finland, that's what we went on these trips.
Yeah. No, I've not made the trip to Scandinavia at all. So it's on the list.
Yeah. The next, maybe your daughter can go to that one next. Maybe one of you can. Right, like I always told my kids when my daughter got out of high school, she was like, "Oh, I want to go to I want to just go for the summer." And I'm like, "No, you're going to work during the summer." And I said, "You can go for as long as you want while you're in school. Go to school. The state of California, right, will subsidize you for a study abroad program. Just go ahead and do that. I mean, that's the way you can do it. You can study over there." So she did that with it. And then here's just one that it's from AIA Los Angeles, but it's the Essential Guide to Los Angeles. And it was in conjunction with the AIA 2006 National Convention and Design Expo. But it's just, but it has all of these, right? This is before cell phones.
Or you would just get an app with all that information on it, right? Yeah.
I'm sure you can, but if it, power ever goes out, right? Yeah.
Nice.
But anyway, it has these like all, and then, I mean, of course, the subway only went like 3 stops or whatever it was for this one. Now it's a little bit more extensive, but, I mean, just even kind of like these little, information, they're just these little books, different information in it. So are there any books that you've or that you want for Christmas or the holidays or something?
Well, I will say that we recently collected a handful of really great books as we've been starting to think about our next book. So just sort of like looking at some examples beyond just our own, because it's it's helpful to kind of look outside of your own, not navel gazing all the time. So I would say a book that we recently got for the office that is really great it's field architecture. Do you know field architecture? So Jess and Stan Field. So they're practicing in Palo
Okay.
Alto, so Bay
Yes.
Area. They do really great work, and they have a new book out. And I'm of course drawing a blank on the title of it, but it's like just came out, and it's actually a great book on their residential projects. So definitely recommend that one. You're
Yeah.
also looking at a recent Lake Flato book on some of their homes. That was quite good.
Mhm.
Jonathan Feldman's book called Immersed, which I think maybe came out maybe a year ago, but is also a really nice book on his residential projects. And his work, he deals with a lot of highly sustainable residential designs, and so the book includes a bunch of really great graphics and diagrams, and sort of talking about how the buildings work too, not just the pretty pictures. So it's a really great book that way as well.
Is he with Feldman Architecture then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
One of my friends, Norman Wong, works for him.
Yeah. Well, you should get
Yeah.
him on your podcast if you have it, because he's a really great guy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. Yeah. And then I've heard about field architecture from another person that I wanted her to be on the podcast, but she was like, "Oh, why don't you interview these people?" Because I guess she had gone to school with the son,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Stan started the practice, and then Jess, his son, joined
Okay.
it. He's been around a while now, but like he's sort of really coming into his own, and I think it's really talented.
Mhm. Yeah. And of course, I'm always looking for women in architecture books. So any of
Well, you already mentioned Anne Foudron, right? She's great. I don't know. Did she
I
put out a
had
book
her on
this
the
past
list
year?
last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But she might be in another book for the more recent. I think there's another book that she's in for the most recent house. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
anything else?
I'm sure there are. Sort of drawing a brain is running out of
I know it's the end of the day. It's dark, right? It's like we feel like it's the end of the day. It's 5:39. Oh my God, I'm ready to go to sleep or something. I went to an opening. An art opening, and it was a Saturday, but I think it started at like 4 or 5. And so we were talking with these other architects, and then there was like this young architect there, or whatever. And I'm like, okay. I said, I think I'm gonna go home. And he's like, it's 7 o'clock. And I'm
feels really late.
like, really? And I looked out like 7 o'clock. So I stayed for one more. Oh, no.
Yeah. I don't love the short days, I have to say. Like I don't mind it being a little cold, but I don't like the short days. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. Um, so how long is it taking this book to? I mean, I know when I was up there, like Tom was kind of doing his, and that was what, in September, and then it won't cut right. So it's at least a year.
It takes about a year. I mean,
After
like
after getting all the photographs and everything, right?
well, luckily, yeah, almost all the work we're looking to include has already been photographed. So we have a lot of the assets already kind of in hand. There might be two other projects we're trying to get photographed for it, but we'll see if we get it done. And then there's like the sort of design part, there's the writing part, and then there's the whole production, the publication part, where it takes months, and it's I think Gordon does the printing in maybe Singapore. I can't remember, but it's somewhere in Asia, where he's got connections with good printers. So that sort of adds time to it, because there's a component of getting it shipped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing it, we'll put it on the list. We'll put like a work in progress or work. We can't put working title because that was already.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. We're still trying to figure out what we should title it, but it's definitely going to be residences. So it's just, do we come up with a more clever name than that is the question.
Houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of where we're at too.
Okay. Well, I wanted to thank Blomberg Windows for the sponsorship for this episode with Greg Mottola. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Really appreciate a chance to talk to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.